Hi, welcome to Blender Frenzy. My name is Justin, and this morning I woke up, and now I'm old. Hi, welcome to Blender Frenzy. My name is Justin, and this morning I woke up, and now I'm old. Hi, welcome to Blender Frenzy. My name is Justin, and this morning I woke up, and now I'm old. Hi, welcome to Blender Frenzy. My name is Justin, and this morning I woke up, and now I'm old.
Welcome back to Blender Frenzy. I am Justin, and today we're going to make ourselves look old. We're going to start with the face, and then I'll probably have to do the hair in a different video. But I actually got this idea from this guy here, Flow Motion here, but he does a lot of cool video effects in After Effects, and so I like to watch his videos and see, can I do this in Blender? And so he did this like make yourself look old, which it's really super professional. I think this guy has done work on like actual production, like television shows and movies and stuff. But anyway, so I thought, oh, how could I do this in Blender? And lo and behold, our very own CG Matter comes out probably the same day with when I was trying to figure this out with this one just about a week ago now, showing us how to track the face and hook it onto an image or a mesh. And that is what we're going to do. So we're going to combine these two workflows and ideas together. And so you see, I already have my face tracked. So I'm not going to go over how to track. You can actually watch a lot of CG Matters. I have my own tracking video that I did in the series Zombie Teeth. So you can go check that out. It's the very first video called Object Track. I show you how to take your footage, make an image sequence, and then bring it into your motion tracking, which if you actually come up here to this VFX motion tracking, you'll get this. And then you can track your footage. So I'm not going to go over all of that. That's already been done. I'm just going to show you a little bit of my settings that I used. First of all, make sure if you're importing footage that you come to your render properties and under color management, change this filmic to standard. This is for all like video footage. And now we have the proper colors. So over here is my tracking settings. Pretty much everything is the default except for I changed the motion model to affine, and I actually did look that up. According to Google, that's how you pronounce it, is affine. And then match previous frame, you can see that, and pre-pass and normalize I have checked. So those are really the only things that I changed. And then of course I changed the size individually depending on the track. And I'm just going to go ahead and disable this path so we can see this a little bit better. And this is kind of what I have here. So it's just all tracked to the face. Another thing you might want to check is if you go to your track tab under objects, make sure you have an object that you make your tracks on. So just come to here and hit the plus button, and then you can double click to rename that object. And that is because if you track the camera, then the camera is the one that's going to move. But if you track an object, then the object is the one that's going to move. Now, for what we're doing, it doesn't really matter, but it's still probably good to get in the habit of doing that. So we've got our face tracked. So let's press A to select all of them, come up here to reconstruction, and then link empty to track. And you can see we have our tracks here. So let's go to our layout view, and this is the default view. So let's just go ahead and delete that default cube. Sorry, CG Matter. And then select our camera. I'm gonna Alt R, clear that rotation, and then Alt G to clear the location. And I'm gonna bring that up on the Z axis here, something like that. And you can see these blue relationship lines here that are coming out of the camera into all of the tracks. Here are all of the points. If we press play, you can see that they're moving. Let's resize them though. So with all of them selected, come up here and make sure that we have individual origins as our pivot point, and then S to scale, and then we scale those in. And then we can start to see here something that resembles a face, sort of. If we go into our camera view, we can see that a little bit better. Let's scale those down just a little bit more and you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. See, now you can see here's our mouth moving and then our eye area here. But I'm going to actually stop this here, and with all of our tracks selected, you can see they're individual empties here over in our outliner. With all of them selected, I'm going to press M and then new collection and then just say tracks. And that way we can select these easier later on. I'm going to select our camera and then come down to camera and then background images and then add image, movie clip, and then in our drop down here we have our image sequence, and then bring that alpha all the way up. And so now you can see those points following perfectly along with the points or the markers on my face. Now, one thing that I didn't do that I probably should have is adjust the focal length and the sensor size. So I'm going to just open up another window here so I don't have to keep going back and forth between motion tracking. We're going to change this to our movie clip editor and then select our image sequence here. N to get rid of the right panel, T to get rid of the left panel. Actually, I want this right panel back up. And then under track, camera, sensor width is 35. So here's our camera sensor size. It's 36. So I'm going to just change this to 35. And you can see that's going to start offsetting or changing our tracks here. And then under lens here, now this actually is probably changed. I think this has changed in like 2.9 and above. I'm currently using 2.83.10 because I like to use the stable long-term release for my tutorials. Anyway, I think the lens and the camera are combined now in one setting. But anyway, just find your lens, find your camera with focal length 24. This is what we've tracked with. So I'm actually going to change this to 24. And you can see that really changed things. So those are really small. Oh, and when I play it though, it actually fixes it, which I didn't realize. All right. I thought I had to do the reconstruction up here again. Well, if it doesn't fix it automatically like this, then you can just come up to reconstruction, link empty to track again, but make sure that you delete all of your previous tracks. But this is good. So I'm going to select all the tracks by right-clicking and then selecting objects on that collection there, and then just scale those up a little bit more like that. And the next thing I'm going to do is just personal preference, but I highly recommend it. I'm going to select the top track here and then again right-click on the collection and then select objects in your object data properties, plane axes to circle. So now you can see that appears a circle, and then I'm going to right click on that circle and then copy to selected, and that changes all of them to circles, but they're oriented the wrong way. So I'm going to rotate them on the X 90 degrees, and there we go. We have all of these circles, and I'm just going to scale them down just a little bit more so they fit a little bit better on the face. All right, yeah, so that's exactly what we want. And you can see out here in 3D space, it's actually not a 3D track. So we tracked these to the face, but we didn't actually do a 3D solve, which would have been over here if we came to our solve and then solve object motion, and that would have put it in 3D space. But we didn't need to do that because the way we're going to do this is completely two-dimensional, which is going to be really cool. But anyway, you can see these relationship lines here to each track. We can actually get rid of those if we come up to our overlays and then uncheck relationship lines. And that way we can kind of see that a little bit more clearly. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 3D cursor as well. All right, so this is kind of what we see here. I'm also going to get rid of the axes here and the floor so we can see that a little bit better. All right. Okay, so don't forget to save it. And then I'm going to collapse this because I don't need that anymore. All right, so now is the part we play a game of connect the dots. I'm going to add in a mesh plane and then edit mode and select the bottom two vertices here and delete those vertices so that we only have the top two here. And then I'm going to select one of the vertices and then come up here, enable snapping and vertex. And then I'm just going to enable our tweak here. If I click this and hold this down, I can select these. I'm going to select tweak, and then that way I can just click and drag that right away. I can click and drag this right away too. So I'm just going to click and drag, and as I drag to one of these empties, one of these tracks, it's going to snap it right to it. And same with that one, just like that. And I'm just going to continue to do this all through over the face. I'm going to start with the perimeter, and then I'm going to go and triangulate inside, making triangles. So the way I'm going to do this is with one of them selected, I'm just going to press E to extrude, and then it will just automatically snap to the nearest track that my mouse is on. and then I'm going to left click to drop that there, and then the same thing, E, and then left click, E, snap, left click, E. Just going to continue to do this all around the face. Okay, so I got the perimeter of the face, so now I'm just going to start making triangles in the face. And it doesn't matter which one you extrude from, just pick one and then just start extruding, making triangles. And you probably know how to make better triangles than I do, but it really isn't all that big of a deal for what we're doing. Okay. And yes, we're going to have, if you are familiar with Blender and vertices, we're going to have a whole bunch of overlapping vertices. Don't worry about that. We'll fix that later. So I'm just going to continue to connect the dots in any way that I can to make these cool. Oh, I don't want that one. Delete that one. Little triangles here. And I'm probably going to speed this up because this is a pretty tedious job. So I've completely forgot one step, and that is to find a good frame to do this on. And I'm doing this on 101, which is completely fine, except for it's not really easy to just jump back to. So I actually originally did it on the last frame here. So now everything is off center. So I'm just going to redo this, and I'll be back when everything is done and triangulated right. Okay, so I've got everything triangulated here on frame 250 now. And the people who probably know about triangulation and modeling, which I'm not a modeler, just FYI, probably are screaming at me like, oh, you did that all wrong. Yeah, well, I probably did. But it actually still works for what we're about to do. And you could probably even do quads instead of triangles for all I know. But I just did triangles here with whatever I could. Oh, I missed one here. Looks like. There we go. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of vertices that are overlapping. So we're just going to select all of them, press M to merge, and then by distance, and you can see it removed 71 vertices. This is going to be different for you because you're probably going to be extruding them differently. You probably don't do exactly the same way that I did it. But now we have just one vertice per marker there. So, which is good. And just to show you why I didn't do frame 1, because I don't like the way my face looks on frame 1. So generally I would do frame 1, but I thought I had a better look here where I've got it kind of more neutral face. My eyes are open and my mouth is just at a neutral position here. So, okay, but we only have vertices and edges here now. We don't have any faces. We got to change that. Let's select all of those and then just press F to fill those faces. Now I'm in wireframe mode here, so I'm just going to go back to viewport shading, and now you can see we do have this, but there is a bit of a problem. If we select our faces, let's go into face mode and then select that, you can see we've got some Z fighting here going on, and that's because we have overlapping faces. Mainly, it's just this one big face. Which we've selected. So if you select that and you can't select these individual, see, here we go. We've selected an individual face here. But if you just click and it doesn't select the individual face, it selects the whole perimeter and everything. All you have to do is just hit X to delete and then faces. Because it adds an extra face on the whole thing for some unknown reason. I don't know why. But now we have each individual triangle as one face, which is exactly what we want. But we do have to make sure they're facing the right way. So to do that, just come up to overlays and go to face orientation. Make sure everything that's facing the camera is blue. And then everything that is not facing the camera is red. You can see that that's what that looks like. If for some reason you have some blue and some red, then what you can do is select everything and then press Alt-N to flip those normals. You can either flip them or recalculate outside or inside. Recalculate is probably best if you have some of them facing one direction and some of them facing another direction, so kind of a mixture of red and blue. Okay, but we've got that, so I'm just going to uncheck that. And now if you think that we've passed the most tedious part, you are sorely mistaken and you're going to be very disappointed because we're on to the most tedious part, but the most crucial part, and I will walk you through that. Okay, so I'm going to set up a couple of things. First, in our overlays, I'm going to make sure text info is on, which it is by default. And then I'm going to select this track here. Oh, why can't I do that? What are we in? Oh, we are in object mode still. So get out of object mode. I want to select this track, right click, and then select the other tracks in that collection, and then come over to object properties, come down to viewport display, and then check name, and that's going to enable the name for our track. Then after you check it, right click and then copy to selected so that all of the names are shown. This is going to be very helpful for us in our next step. So the next step is we have to hook each vertice to each track. So select our base plane, go into edit mode, go into vertex select, and let's zoom in. We're going to come up to our first track here. So let's go over to our modifiers. And then the easiest way to do this is we're going to start on our track, and then we're going to go chronologically. So we're going to go track, and then track 1, track 2, track 3. We're going to go chronologically because we want to keep this in as much order as possible in case something down the line messes up and we need to find them. And even if it doesn't mess up, we still need to find them later on in order to tweak them. And then the easiest way to make the hook is select the one vertice and then control click on the track. Now you see it just disabled that selection. Apparently you have to be, zoomed in quite a bit in order to select that. So I'm just going to select the vertice again, control click to select that track, and then control H and then select the middle one, hook to selected object, and then boom, now we have in our modifiers our hook. And if I drag this out, you can see this hook track is hooked to this track. Now a hook is actually invisible. It just means that there's a connection. Now if I scrub through my timeline, you're not going to see that. You will only see it in object mode, but we're in edit mode. So in order to see it in edit mode, we're going to check these two things. And now we can see that vertice is hooked onto that track and it follows its location exactly. Now for each one of these, I highly recommend making sure that they match, and I'll show you why later, but we have hook track and track. Perfect, that's what we want. We want both of these enabled over here so we can see it in edit mode, and then we're just gonna collapse this. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the next one and go chronologically. So let's go to track 1 and then select our vertice, control, select our track, control H, and then hook to selected object, and it makes the next one. And then you can see we want to make sure that these match. So we got track.001 and then track.001 here, which is great. We're going to enable those and then collapse. And we're just going to go, same thing, track 2, control click, control H, select track 2, they match, good. And just going to keep going here. I'm going to do a couple of these or several more of these here. And I'll show you why we're doing it this way. Track 4, enable, and track 5, enable, and track 5. Okay, so the reason I'm making sure everything lines up and matches is because let's say you're going down the line and you forget that you've done one and you come up over here to, let's just do track 1, and we're like, oh, let's do track 1 again. So if I select this and try to hook those again, it doesn't recognize that it's already hooked and it will create another hook. So now we have track 6 being hooked to track 1, which is what we tracked it to. But it's a completely separate hook than hook track 1. But that's not all. If we enable this here, so we can see in our edit mode, and we scrub through this, you can see that it does not track to the track. It's not hooked. It doesn't seem like it's just going all over the place. And that's because it's taking both hooks and averaging them. And it's just kind of going, in whatever calculation it does. So if I disable one of them, then it's using one of them now as the track, which is good. And same thing, if I enable that one and disable this one, it's the same thing because it's already been tracked. So this is one of the reasons why it's so important to make sure that they are matching. So if you're going down the line and you check and these don't match up for some reason, then that means you already have a hook on that vertice and on that track. So all you have to do is, okay, well, I already got this one. I'm just going to delete that. And now we got to find 6, our track 6. Of course, we've got to be on our frame 250 because that's what we've been using for this setup. So here's our track 6, which is next in line after track 5. We can close that and then select that one and then hook, and now they match and we can enable those and go along. And so this is what we have so far. So all the tracks that are hooked are following along, and we've got quite a bit to go. So I'm going to keep going and speed up the footage. Okay, so something that you can do is if you accidentally get out of order, so I got track 16 and then I did track 18, again, make sure that they're matching, so that's fine, and track 17 is matching. It's pretty easy. All you have to do is just click the up or down arrow and it will move those up into order, and then you can keep going. Another thing that can help with this is if you come up to Edit, Preferences, under Navigation, and Zoom, you can do Zoom to Mouse Position, and that way you can scroll out and then find whichever one you want. See, I'm at 25, we need 26, so then just come over here, and then that way it can zoom in a little bit more quickly and accurately. So 26, 27. And you notice not all of these line up. It's just because of the way that I extruded everything, and it's just kind of random in a lot of places. So we need 27. So where is track 27? Oh, I see. That's way over here. Interesting. So if I just hover my mouse over here and then just scroll in, then it scrolls in that way. So then I don't even have to really mess with the viewport a whole lot. Just got to scroll in to where the mouse is pointed to. So we've got 26 there and we've got 27 here. There we go. Okay, and 40 is the last one, at least on the markers on my face that I made. So I've got 40 tracks. Now I've got 40 hooks, hooking those to 40 vertices. And this is what we have. Let's go ahead and just disable that text info here for now. All right, and now we don't even need the tracks anymore, so I'm just going to disable those here, and they still are hooked and they still contribute to our face, but we don't have to see them. Okay, I'm going to disable the origins there too. So we've got this. Of course, make sure you're saving it. But before we can paint, we need to unwrap it. So let's go to our UV editing and then go to our camera mode. And let's select everything. I'm going to check UV sync selection up here. And then come to our UV maps and make sure our UV map is selected. We can also rename this if we want. So I'm going to actually unwrap this on a new image. So I'm just going to click new up here. Just title this face. And I want the same dimensions as my footage, which if you can see over here, it is 1920 by 1080. So click new again. Didn't finish that before, so 1920 by 1080, and then keep alpha checked here, and then I'm actually going to in here bring that alpha all the way down so that it is transparent, and then click OK, and then scroll out. So this is what we're going to use to project onto. So I'm going to hover my mouse over here with all of them selected. I'm going to press U and then project from view, and then in this little box that comes up, we want to make sure that only camera bounds is checked, because that will put it exactly over the footage of our face to line it up perfectly. And we can even test that out if we bring in our footage here, which I want to do anyway. So let's go ahead and open up our footage. So navigate to your folder where you have your image sequence, select all of them, make sure it's starting at frame 1, and you can make sure if a vertical list that it goes 1 and it goes chronologically. Open image, and there we go. We have this not lined up, and the reason is because we're on frame 1. So if we go to frame 250, you can see that lines up perfectly the way we lined it up in our 3D view. Okay, next let's set up our material to paint onto. So go into the shading mode. Now I've adjusted this view so yours might look different. I just adjusted it from my little bubble head over here. But what you're going to do is in your node editor here, just click new. Well, let's go into camera mode. Make sure our plane face is selected. I'm actually going to, in this outliner, rename this face so that we know that's what's selected. And then with that selected, then we can click new here. And I'm just going to delete that principled shader because I'm going to put in a shader emission and then plug that one up. And then what I want to do is add in a texture, image texture, hook that up to the color, and we don't have anything plugged in there now, so it's all black. So let's select our face, which we've made already, which is all black because there's nothing on that either. It's transparent, but we're not using the transparent. So if we look right now, that this is what we see, and if we change that to alpha, it's also black. But what we want to do is add in a transparent shader. Put that above there. And then add in a mix shader. Where's my mix shader? There it is. Okay. Put the emission in the bottom one, and then the transparent in the top one, and then the alpha in the factor. Okay, and it's still black. And the reason is because we need to change our material. Go to Material tab here. We need to change the blend mode from opaque to alpha blend. And now we have something that looks completely transparent. But we need to make sure you're in material preview mode or render mode if you're using Eevee. I'm going to stay in material preview mode. I am going to disable these HDRI preview things though, because they just kind of get in the way. And then I want to make sure that the world opacity is all the way down. And this will help for our painting in a little bit. Okay, so I think we have everything set up to paint. So let's go ahead and go over to our texture paint mode. I'm going to scroll out here. This is our face. I'm actually going to change this to the 3D viewport as well. We're going to go into camera mode in both of these here, change them both to our material preview mode, and now we can start painting. So let's just create some brush templates here. I'm going to select this one, type paint. And for this one, we can either come up here and scroll up the top, or we can come down here for our settings. I'm going to come up here, go to, let's see, fall off. I'm going to paint with a very steep fall off. So bring that all the way down like that. So click this button first and then bring that all the way down like that. And in order to see what our fall off looks like, come up here to cursor and then fall off opacity. And we can change that all the way to 100% and then check that so that we can see it. And you can see that's what our opacity looks like right now. Now, of course, I have my little yellow circle on there, but you can kind of see the fall off there. If I change my fall off to something that's really big, you can see that's what that will look like. You see the black area there. So that sharp fall off here looks like that. And I'm going to try to change that even more here. Yeah, something like that. Bring that down even more. There we go. Okay, so with these settings, I'm going to copy this by pressing this 2 button, which makes a copy. You can see we have paint and now paint 01. I'm going to change the name here to stencil. And then we're going to copy that again. I'm going to change this to erase. And then we're going to come up to our to our settings up here, scroll over and change mix to erase alpha. And then one more, we're going to select that and then add, and then change this one to add alpha. So now we have 4 different brushes, or brush templates at least. So we've got erase, which is our erase alpha, add alpha, paint, which is our regular paint for colors, and then we have our stencil. And so for the stencil, we are going to use an old man photo that I found on Pixabay. I'll leave a link to it in the post. You can see. So this is the old face that we are going to use to paint over my face. So in order to do that, we need to create a texture. So go to your texture tab, click new, and then under image settings, we need to open it. So find your picture, and then that just loads it into Blender. Now we have to go back up to the top to our active tool, and then scroll down to texture, and then it should already load. If it doesn't load in here like this, just click in this area, and then you should be able to select it from here. All right, and for the mapping, we're going to choose stencil, and then if we hover over here, you can see our stencil. Now, if I right click, I can move that around. If I shift right click, I can scale, and if I control right click, I can rotate. Now, to clear that rotation, you can select the angle and then just type 0. You can also reset transform for all of those, and it will reset that transform. But this is not the correct image aspect ratio, so we just want to click image aspect. So now all we have to do is line this up to our face. Now, one thing you probably want to also mess with is if we go back to our cursor, this texture opacity. If I increase that, it increases the opacity. If I decrease that, it makes it more transparent so that we can see through it in order to paint onto our image with that stencil. So, all right, so I'm just gonna scroll in here. And the reason I have this open here is because when you have this and you start painting on, it's hard to see because of the stencil in the background. So I'm just gonna look over here as I paint over here, and then we can see our result. So I'm going to start with the left side because you can see that the left side of his face is what's lit up. So I'm going to start with the left side because that's not in the shadows. Over here is too much in the shadows. So I'm just going to resize this to fit the eye and then, rotate it enough to line that up as best as I can to my own eye, just like that. And now all I have to do is just start painting. And you should see over here the result of that paint. Now I can also come over here and change my strength, but for now I want to keep my strength at 1, so I'm just going to keep painting. If I press F, I can resize this if I go left and right, it'll resize it bigger or smaller. So I can just start doing that here. And I'm just going to paint around the eye and onto the nose a little bit. I'm going to try to avoid the nostril here. But even if you get something where you don't want to, we will be able to erase it, which is why we made our erase alpha over there. So don't worry about that for now. Oh, and I got out of place here. Whoops. Let's line that back up here. Okay, and you see this weird, like, if I go back over to my layout view, let's go into our, you see this weird, almost like Z fighting that's happening, where you can see this footage through that. In order to fix that, let's go to our Material tab, go down where it says Settings, and right below Alpha Blend, we want to uncheck Show Backface, and then that will take care of that. So let's back over to Texture Paint. You can do that here too. It's just that in order to use my mouse without the stencil, I just went over to Layout View. Okay, back up here, and for stencil, we're just gonna make sure we're gonna paint over that here again, because I got out of line. There we go, something like that. And you can start to see that we're painting on my face. Now, something I did forget to do, and this is a good time to do it because we don't want to paint too much more before we do this next step. So let's go back to our layout view. We only have it on a very small portion of our face, so we actually want to extend these out a lot more. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go back into solid shaded mode here and then go into edit mode, and then I'm just going to deselect everything and just select the perimeter. Just the ones on the outer edge here, just like that. And then I'm going to uncheck snap, and then I'm going to make sure individual origins is selected. Press E to extrude, and now you can see if I move my mouse, we have this. I'm going to right click to set those, and then S to scale them out, because we want more of that to be seen. Okay, so now if I play, you can see that, of course, these new vertices are not tracked to anything because it doesn't copy those hooks. So this is another reason why we kept track of the chronological number of our hooks. So we go back to our frame 250, which is our staple frame here, and we need to, let's go into X-ray mode here. In edit mode, we need to retrack all of the perimeter ones with the tracking markers. So let's enable our tracking markers. Let's go ahead and enable those that text info again. And what we want to do is not create extra hooks. So since if we go into edit mode, if we select this one, I could just control click. Well, let's just do this. I could just control click this and control H to create another hook, but that creates 41, and then that's at the original track. And remember, they don't match. And this is okay, but then we're just creating more hooks than we need to. So instead of doing that, I'm going to delete that, and we're going to just go up to our original track and open that. And then I'm going to select this vertice and then shift select this vertice. And then we're just going to assign both of these to this hook track just by clicking assign. And now if I play this, you can see that both of them are hooked and move in sync with each other. Okay, so again, select one, shift select the other, and then control click that track. And don't do the control H, we just want to find our track .001, which is this one, and then click assign. All right, and then the next one, see the next one on the perimeter is track 12. And so if I select this vertice, shift select this vertice, control select our hook, and now it's going to be really easy to find 12, so just go down to 12 and click assign. And so I'm just going to go around the whole perimeter doing exactly this. And I just realized that since we've already created the hooks, this recognizes this as 39, I don't actually need to select the hook. We've already made these hooks. So if I come over here, you can see that we've got this one that's hooked, but we don't have this one hooked yet. So if I just select this one, shift select that one, I don't need to select my track. I can just go to track 38 and click assign, and then that assigns it to track 38, which is nice because sometimes it's a little finicky trying to select those tracks. So I don't actually need to zoom in that far, which is nice. So select, shift select, and then track 40 and assign. There we go, perfect. Okay, so I'm just gonna finish these. Okay, I think I have all of them tracked. Yeah, so you can see now we have, oh, nope, I did not do track 12. For some reason, that didn't track very well. So another thing that is cool is if, for example, track 12, if I come over here, I can actually, if I deselect everything by pressing Alt-A, I can come over here and say select. And then I can see all of the points that are tracking with track 12. This is helpful if you accidentally track more points to a single track than you meant to. For example, if I had something over here that was selected accidentally when I click assign, and then for some reason it's going haywire, then you can actually check each one of the tracks to see what vertices are assigned to this particular track, which is super useful. So this is the only one that's assigned, so let's go ahead and select both of those and then assign, and now they move. Okay, and just for giggles, I'm going to make sure that track 11, if we deselect everything, I'm going to select those, make sure that those are correctly selected. Okay, yes, looks like they are. And again, let's just make sure everything is moving the way it's supposed to be moving. And that looks like it is. Awesome, so now we have a lot more area around here to paint on. However, since we did change our mesh, we actually have to unwrap it again. So let's go to UV editing, and we can go ahead and disable our tracks for now. Select everything. Here, I'm going to go to the properties and our UV maps. I'm just gonna duplicate this one here, and then just type face 2, and then make sure that's in our render. And now do the same thing. Nope, we want to go to 250, and then project from view, and then make sure our camera bounds is the only one that's selected. Yes, so this is what we want that to look like. Now we may have to repaint that, which is why I am glad that we didn't go any further with our painting before we realized we needed to paint on more area. So let's go back to our texture paint to see what we have. And yeah, so it looks like we don't have, it looks like that may have reset that for us. Yeah. So we have to repaint, which is all right because we didn't get that far. And we've still got everything pretty much lined up the way that it should be. So let's go ahead and start painting again. And you can see that, yeah, that's painting on there pretty nicely. Now I am going to go out here a little bit more because we can paint or erase this edge here. So I'm going to go all the way to the edge with this, and I'm only painting this half of the face for now because this is the side of the face that is in the light. So got to line that back up again, and it doesn't really matter a whole lot how lined up it is, as long as it just, it looks good, especially with the beard and the mouth. They're going to be in different positions, which is fine. So here I am going to try to line up the nose. So the nose is right here. So line that up with the bottom of my nose here so we can get some good mustache action going on over here. And maybe actually I'm going to resize that a little bit more to maybe fit that a little bit better. And just repaint over. And paint under here. We don't have to worry about the mouth too much right now because we'll be painting that out anyway. We're going to go all the way to the edge again over here. And again, only doing half of the face. Oh, I want to undo that last one because we already had that top portion over there. Oh, and I didn't get inside the eye. Huh. All right, well, let's go back and do that. This is definitely something, if you're a perfectionist like me, it's going to take you a little bit of time to do. But let's go ahead and play this just to show you what it is that we're trying to accomplish. You can see, look at that. Since we've already got all of our points hooked and the mesh is following it, the texture stretches along with that motion. And this is exactly what we're going for. So let's go to our shading. And you can see our texture here like a mask being overlaid on a transparent background, which is overlaid on our footage here. But we want to save this. So you can come to here and image and then save. I'm actually going to right click on this and then show menu. I don't know why it's like that by isn't like that by default, but anyway, image, because you can see this little asterisk here, which means that this image hasn't been saved. So if you don't save this image and you close Blender, it's lost. You have to repaint that again. So let's go ahead and save and save this under our materials. I've already saved a couple during my practice, so we're going to save this as face B01, and of course you can name that whatever you want. So okay, so now we want to keep going here. So let's go back to texture paint, but now I want to flip this picture so we're painting the light side on this side as well. And for this, I'm actually going to duplicate the stencil. So we're going to duplicate the stencil and then we'll put flip just for sake of ease. And I'm going to come down here and change the size of the X to -1, and that does the flip. But then of course we'll have to adjust it here and rotate it to fit this side of the face, this eye. I'm not trying to match up the eyeball necessarily. I'm just trying to match up the eyelids, top and the bottom eyelids, and then the corner. Maybe we can rotate that a little bit more, something like that. And also the eyebrows here. Okay, and of course I didn't center that well enough, this side of the face going. Again, I'm going to go all the way to the edge, because we'll deal with that later. Fill all of this in and all of its goodness here. I'm going to adjust it, painting all the way down here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my shading, hover my mouse over here, Alt S to save that so that asterisk goes away. I'm also going to save my blend file and then come over here. So the next thing I want to do is get the top of the head here. So with that, I'm just going to move this up and then paint in more of these lines in the head just to have more room to fade out. Just have some more room to play with. Okay, I'm gonna go back to our stencil that's flipped the correct way. Kind of do the same thing. Try to be careful not to have, oops. Let's see, it's trying to line up the lines there, but try not to paint an extra eyebrow. But yeah, that's good. That's good enough for our purposes now. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this again. Alt S, and I'm going to Alt Shift S to save this as. I'm going to just save this as number 2 in case we need to fall back on the one that we had before if we royally screw things up. So this time what we're going to do is going to erase some of this around the edges and in the middle. So let's look at what we have here in our eyes. So the eyes don't look too bad. I'm probably going to erase some of this in here. So let's come over to grab our erase and then just start erasing that there. Because it's going to look weird if I'm moving my eyes and blinking, and then you can see the paint over that, the mask over that. So I'm just going to paint all of that out. And don't worry about the color. Obviously, the color doesn't match right now. We will do a color balance and correction later. Oh, I just noticed I want to add more here on my nose. So let's fix that real quick. Stencil, and just gonna move that here. Oh yeah, I like that. Okay, that's good. Let's go and save that here. Can't save too often. I can't stress that enough because it's just a pain in the butt when you lose stuff. I am going to erase a lot of this over here. That's on, we'll do the strength. We'll bring that strength down to 5 here. Maybe adjust our fall off a little bit so it's, yeah, a little bit less pointed. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want that natural light from my window over here coming in and hitting my nose like it would in real life. We don't want this to be completely a painted image because it's too obvious that way. And since this is actually all white and blown out anyway, that's what it would look like on this image anyway. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side of the face. Actually, we're just going to get rid of all of this here. I'm going to bring that back up to 1. We're just going to delete all of that or erase all of that around the edge. And then just going to ease into that here. We'll bring this back down to 0.5. Just kind of ease into that here. Something like this, we can always adjust that later. But then, what I'm going to do, crank that back up to 1, is go around the perimeter. Let's save this here. I'm going to go back and save this here. And just going to go around the perimeter and just erase all of that around the perimeter here. And this is where maybe I'll change my fall off. We'll bring that back down. It's just really difficult, I think, in Blender to blend things in the texture, which is ironic a little bit. But this texture painting mode, it's a bit of a wonky beast to get used to. Now, I think I've erased a little bit too much of this here. So what I'm going to do is go to Add, which does just the opposite, and we're just going to... Oh, I still have the strength at 1. No kidding. No wonder. Okay, let's just bring that back up again. I wanted this to be 0.5. Oh, that's because I changed my brush. That's why. Okay, erase is still at 0.5. Okay. So all I'm doing is kind of going back and forth here to blend in as best as I can into my face. Again, the color is going to be way off. Don't worry about that now. We will do our best to change and tweak that in the future. But just remember that all of these settings that you change only apply to a single brush. I think there may be something that you can click on to link them. Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so you want to try to do the outside perimeter first, because when you start adding stuff and changing your brush size and stuff, it's going to probably fill the eyes and the mouth again and the nose. So we want to do those last. So let's go back over here. And that looks like we can probably get rid of some more of this under here. Oh, and I just realized I'm on frame 95. We need to be on frame 250. This is what our template frame is. All right, so that's just going to have to do for now. Now what I want to do is make sure, again, I have the holes in the eyes and the mouth appropriately where they need to be. So it looks like we need to cut out a little bit more around here, and then definitely the mouth. So let's save this first here. Go back to our texture paint. Let's go ahead and erase this here. And I've got this strength at 7.75. And for this, we'll go ahead and get rid of all of this here for now to where the corner of the lips are here. And then I like to have this kind of coming down over the corners because I think it looks a little bit more realistic. This one looks like a clown. I mean, more so than what I already am. Let's go to our stencil. Maybe I need to just get our nostril lined up here. Yeah, okay, there we go. That's gonna blend that in a little bit better. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, whew, man, this has been rough. Okay, let's save our image. Okay, and then here, I'm just gonna kind of manipulate this to paint over the corners of the mouth there. Because that's what a real beard would do. It's not a little clown face. And that's a little too much, but we can get rid of that. I'm just going to go a little bit over. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this again. Okay, and let's play. Let's go. I think I said, hi, yeah, this is, so you can see that's really stretching there. So what we're going to do is come to our erase. Let's go to 0.5, and we're just going to start getting rid of some of that in there. And especially definitely down here around the lips and up here around the teeth. Yeah, like that. And let's go to to our stencil. This can definitely get tedious, depending on how perfectionistic you are about things, which again, I can be very. All right, I like that. Yeah, that's not too bad. Let's go back here and just kind of ease some of that out around the lips. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty good right now. Let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to also save as. We're going to just make a copy just so we have something to fall back on in case, again, we royally screw things up. So I'm just going to quick scan through here just to see if it looks all right. And you see a lot of fuzziness as I'm scrolling through here. That's just Eevee. It won't look that fuzzy. I do want to cover up that dot there. All right, I think that's good enough. As good as we're going to get it now. All right, let's again go ahead and make sure we've got all of this erased up here that we want out of there so that doesn't overlap. Okay, let's go back here. This is what we have. Yeah, it's not looking too bad. So let's just save that. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is render this out as an image sequence. So let's go to our rendering tab and come over here to our output and 1920 by 1080. That's fine, 24 frames per second. My footage is actually 30 frames per second, but it doesn't really matter because we're just rendering frames right now. So I'm going to make a double / and enter IMSQ for image sequence folder. I'm going to do another / and then just title this I'm recording now. So I'm going to do REC and then old man, and then I'm on 213 iteration / so that's my folder. And then inside I'm just going to do we'll just do old man _ enter. So we've got image sequence folder, and then inside that we have an REC old man folder, and then inside that we have our file name old man with an underscore at the end, so it separates the frames that will be automatically added. I'm going to uncheck overwrite for now. PNG, you can choose that from here, and then make sure you have RGBA to get that transparency alpha in the background, and we should be good to go. Before I start rendering all of them, I'm going to test several of them. So we're going to just go right here. We're just going to test this one, F12. We are still looking at our image, so this is not the render result. So you see this up here, it says face. We have to actually change that to render result. And you can see we don't see any transparency. So if I come over here, F12, it doesn't render that transparency. And that is because we need to come back to our render properties, go down to film, and then check transparent. Now if we press F12, we retain that transparency. So I'm just going to check a few more of these, make sure that is good, and that's pretty good. Okay, so we're ready now to go back to our output. One last thing, post-processing, we don't want sequencer checked, and we don't want compositing checked because we're not using the video sequence editor or the compositor right now. It's just strictly the 3D view, and this is what we want to see in the 3D view, so that's what we want rendered. Okay, I'm going to save it, and then Control F12, and that will start rendering out the image sequence into our folder that we designated here. And then once all of those are done, we will put this and the original footage together in the video sequence editor. So you'll see me over there. All right, so our image sequence is here and all finished. So what I'm going to do is, because I want to keep my PNGs and my video file settings separate, I'm actually going to open up a new version of Blender. So I get a separate instance of Blender here. I'm going to add in a video editing workspace here. I'm going to add in our image sequence and add in our image strip there. Okay. And then, of course, we've got to make sure we add in our footage. Okay, so I just added in the image sequence as well as the regular video footage that I took, just so that we can have the sound with it if we want. I'm going to display that waveform on that sound. So this is what we have. Oh, I need to go to playback and AV sync And then we can also do, well, we don't need to do audio scribbling right now, but I'm gonna refresh Control R. And that's too choppy here, so I'm gonna go down to, let's see, up here, and to view. I'm gonna change render size to 50% here. That'll be good enough, I think, hopefully. Oh, that's a little bit too choppy here. I wonder if it's just this video. Let me just hide this video. And oh, and I put that down. There we go.
Hi, welcome to Blender
Oh,
Frenzy.
that's better. Okay, so this video footage, I'm just gonna keep hidden, but we've got the sound along with it, so everything should match up. Okay, and then the color isn't right because I opened up a new version of Blender, so we want to go down to color management and change that to standard. And this is what we have.
Hi, welcome to Blender Frenzy. My name is Justin, and this morning I woke up, and now I'm old.
If we do Shift and then right click, you can scrub over each of these strips just to see what that is showing. So this is what we see on that. So if I click this strip, I can come over to our modifiers and then add a strip modifier and do a color balance like this. And then I can adjust the colors here. So gamma and gain are going to be the two that you're going to want to use. The lift doesn't really help us in this situation. I mean, maybe slightly. I don't even know if I changed it from the original. But gamma, let's bring up the gamma here a little bit. Okay. And then we'll bring down the gain here. Okay, so that's not, let's bring up the gain a little bit and bring down the gamma. Okay, and maybe adjust this as well here. But we want to find a good, like, happy medium to where it kind of matches the color and the lighting as much as possible. So you can also change the colors here to be something different. So that looks like it matches a little bit better to my skin here. Let's see what this one does. That one doesn't seem to really help, so I'm not going to do that. But let's brighten this up here a little bit. And we'll brighten that up as well. And again, I don't think I really did a good job of blending things in this time, unfortunately. You can see definitely that eye over here, that could use a little bit more work. And if that's the case, all you have to do is go back over to your first Blender instance here and go to our texture paint again. Yeah, I think I like that better. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah. Okay, we'll keep it like that for now. I'm going to save that and then come to our rendering. I'm just going to render this out again. I'm going to overwrite everything and I will be back when it's done. All right, it's finished. So let's go back to our video sequence editor here and just Control R to refresh. And you can see, oh, that's much better with that eye, because we made sure to click overwrite. So it overrided everything, overwritten, everything that was the original image sequence here. So I'm going to, yeah, just keep adjusting this. We can also add different modifiers here. So we can add curves, hue correct, brightness. Let's do this. Let's try hue correct. Just bring some of these yellows and oranges and reds in the saturation. We'll bring those down in saturation. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it doesn't look that good, but what's going to help us with is if we now we can adjust these a little bit better. So you can see you have a lot of like fine control over these. And if you want to see what it looks like without it, just click this eye. Same thing here. You know, that might be too much desaturation. So we'll bring these back up a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. So that actually looks a lot better now. Okay. Yeah. So I like this. Of course, we can go in and adjust the smoothness here between these faded, and I could add a mask and feather that out or in. I'm not going to do that here because you already can see the concept. You can tweak on your own, but this is the way you do it. And so what I would do now is just render this out into a movie. So let's go here. 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second. Here we're just gonna double forward slash. I'm gonna make a folder called renders forward slash, and then just gonna plop this right inside. We're just gonna say old man, and then since I have 213 down here, I'm just gonna type in 213 here, underscore enter, uncheck overwrite, and then choose FFmpeg video. And in coding, I'm going to choose MPEG-4. Again, all of this is personal preference. I'm going to keep everything here like this. I'm going to use MP3 as the audio, and then I'm going to actually save this as well. And let's go to our rendering and make sure this is render result up here. Oh, and for some reason, I lost. All right, well, I apologize. I don't know when I lost this here. Okay, well, I hope you were able to follow along. If not, I do apologize, but let's go ahead and continue this here. F12. Okay, why is that not rendering? Let's see, our output post-processing, that's why, because we need to uncheck both of those. F12, and it's still not rendering. Oh, yep, no, here's a default cube. This is wrong. We do need sequencer, which again, F12, there we go. Here is what we have. I'm going to just make sure a couple of other frames are lined up just right, and looks like we're pretty good. Okay, so this is going to render out into a movie, so I'm going to save this and Control F12 to render that animation. You can see it's now rendering out that movie. All right, let's see what we have.
Hi, welcome to Blender Frenzy. My name is Justin, and this morning I woke up, and now I'm old.
All right, that's not too bad. Again, I think everything is pretty good here. Maybe I could clean up or maybe make this a little bit more fuzzy underneath the bottom lip there. And then of course, the edges I can make a lot better. That is how you manipulate your face, by adding an image over it. Now there's a better way to make an image. I just chose a random image that I found that was free online to make myself look old, and I painted it over my own face. But if you download some apps that actually manipulate your own face to make your face look old, that is the best way to do it. And that's the guy who did it in After Effects that I showed you at the beginning of this tutorial. That's what he did and made his own face. And then if you do that in the footage that you're using, then it's going to match all of the lighting perfectly. It's going to match your skin color perfectly. It's not going to be as difficult as having somebody else's face and having a completely different colorized version of a picture onto yours, where you have to do so much adjusting. And that, I'm going to actually experiment with that. I haven't done that yet, but I'm going to experiment with that later, and we'll upload the result after I've done that. But this is only the first half where we manipulate the face. Next, we need to manipulate the hair and make it white. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to do that in another video, so you will see me over there.